Today we're comparing 3 different modelers at 3 different price points. We'll start with the TONEX One at the lower end of the spectrum, then the TONEX Pedal at the middle point, and finally the GT1000Core at the higher end of the spectrum for this particular video. The point here is not exactly to do a head-to-head comparison. I've already done comparisons between both the TONEX Pedal and the GT1000Core, and also between the TONEX One and the TONEX Pedal. I'll leave the link to those videos in the description. Instead, the point of this video is to show you what you get for the extra money in each different price bracket, so you can better understand exactly how much money you need to spend in order to get the features you need. Our cheapest modeler will be the TONEX One, which is on Thomann right now for 149 euros and on Sweetwater for $199. The middle tier will be the TONEX Pedal on Thomann for 322 euros, Sweetwater $429, and at the high end we have the Boss GT1000Core on Thomann for 629 euros, Sweetwater $659. With that said, this video will be divided into 6 parts. We'll start off with features, then build quality, then sound quality, followed by UI and usability. Then we'll talk about software, and finally I'll try to tell you which one you should buy depending on your needs. Throughout the video we'll hear 3 different sound comparisons between the GT1000Core and the TONEX Pedal, with clean sounds, overdrive and full-on lead tones. And the reason I'm not including the TONEX One in the sound comparisons is simply because its sound character is exactly the same as the TONEX Pedal, even though the TONEX Pedal has a bit more resolution. We'll discuss this further in the sound quality chapter. I'm Gui Batista, and if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. It's a great way to help the channel grow, and I really appreciate your support. The differences in the features of these 3 pedals are all over the map. You won't find a linear progression where the more you pay, the more features you find. It's actually way more convoluted than that. So let's break it down. Starting with the lower tier at $200, TONEX One actually has a ton more features than I figured. This is a complete modeling solution that includes amp captures created by IK Multimedia, which include both the amp and the cab, and it also has a suite of effects. In terms of numbers, TONEX One can hold 20 presets at a time, and the preset is a combination between your amp and cab plus the TONEX effects. So a preset can be just a distortion pedal, just an amp and cab, or a full-on rig with amp, cab, compressor, delay and reverb. And you can have up to 20 presets inside the pedal, but you can only access 2 via the foot switches. So you can take the TONEX One with you and use the internal browse mode to change what presets are assigned to the foot switches, but that process is very confusing. Personally, I'd rather just use the 2 available presets than mess around with browse mode. And TONEX One can also be used as an on-off stomp. It also includes a tuner, which uses the pedal's LEDs to help you tune. It's very usable, but not a professional level tuner. So in terms of features, this mini pedal is packed full of them and can satisfy many use cases, which we'll talk about later. If you move up to the middle tier at $400 with the TONEX Pedal, things change very drastically. You now have access to 3 foot switches instead of 1, you get a screen, not a great one, but still a screen, you get 1200 amp captures included with the TONEX Max Suite, instead of the 240 captures included with TONEX SE, which is what ships with the TONEX One, and you get much more comprehensive connections on the back of the pedal. So with TONEX Pedal, you can save up to 150 TONEX presets on the pedal, instead of the 20 you can save in the TONEX One. And furthermore, because you have 3 foot switches, you can now access all those presets pretty easily using banks. So the depth of what you can do on a live show has increased exponentially with TONEX Pedal. And another aspect of the upgrade that really makes a big difference is how many captures you get. 240 captures might sound like a lot, and it is, but TONEX Pedal's 1200 captures absolutely dwarfs what TONEX One offers, giving you a vastly superior collection of captures that can pretty much answer any needs you might have. TONEX Pedal is also the only modeler in this comparison that includes amp capture technology, so if you want to capture your own amps and turn them into playable amp captures, TONEX Pedal is the only one here that can do it. The connections on the back of the TONEX Pedal also make it a superior choice for players who want to integrate TONEX into an existing rig. On the other hand, TONEX One fits nicely at the end of any pedal board and does a lot for its footprint and price point. And now introducing the high end of this comparison. If you move up to $600 with the GT1000Core, you now get what I would classify as an actual all-in-one modeler. While TONEX Pedal can be used as an all-in-one solution and it will be good enough for many players, for others the suite of effects included and the low complexity of the signal chain will not be enough. The GT1000Core is a complete GT1000 in a smaller package. It includes all of the effects, all the complexities and possibilities of the signal chain, and all of the DSP of the big unit, but in a pedal format. The GT1000Core is far more powerful and more versatile than the TONEX Pedal. While the TONEX Pedal includes 1200 amp captures, the GT1000Core includes actual amp models that allow you to reach any configuration you want on the amps it has on board, while TONEX's amp captures are more like screenshots of what the amp sounded like when the capture was made. And when it comes to effects, there's simply no comparison. The GT1000Core includes a full suite of Boss effects, which are all of a much higher quality than what TONEX offers, and you'll be able to find pretty much any effect you want. In terms of build quality, there's a twist in the conversation. Let's start with a high-end product this time. The Boss GT1000Core is in fact the best product on the list in terms of build quality, as the price would suggest. In fact, the GT1000Core is built at a much higher standard than anything else in its price bracket. I said this in my review of the unit and I'll say it again. I don't think there's many units in the market, regardless of price, that are as well built as the GT1000Core. But the twist is actually with the TONEX units. The TONEX Pedal, contrary to the GT1000Core, is actually underbuilt when compared to other products in its price point. Although I don't think its construction will affect its reliability or long-term use on the road, the product does in fact feel very cheap. This is not the case with the TONEX One, which was very surprising to me. The TONEX One is actually a pretty well-built mini pedal with great materials and a nice premium feel for its price point. I'm hopeful that this improvement in build quality from one pedal to the other could mean that the next iteration in the TONEX product line might be built more to the standard of the TONEX One than the TONEX Pedal. To recap, in this category, $600 gets you one of the best build pedals on the market, $200 gets you a very nice construction on a mini pedal, and $400 gets you a pretty flimsy build quality on an otherwise excellent product. In this category, we have to be very precise about our terminology. I'll be mentioning two different aspects of sound quality for these three products, and the distinction is massively relevant here. Let's talk about sound quality and sound character. And these are just the terms I'm using personally. You could replace them with anything else that makes sense. What I mean by sound quality is the objective resolution of the audio, so how good a product sounds in terms of its resolution and proximity to the source. And by sound character, I mean how good the sounds inside the pedal are in terms of realism, so how close to an actual tube amp or an analog delay pedal things sound. The reason I'm making this distinction is because, like build quality, there isn't a linear correlation here between price and sound character, but there is a direct correlation between price and sound quality. The GT1000Core has the best sound quality of all these products. When recording into Logic, it's plainly obvious that this product has the highest standard audio components of the three because the sound is far less compressed and more spacious than the TONEX products. There's also a noticeable decrease in latency when using the Boss pedal. There's no lag between playing the note and hearing it on the monitors, while there's a slight bit of latency in both the TONEX pedals and almost every modeler in the market. The Boss GT1000 series is actually famous for its incredibly low latency. The TONEX pedal is not in the same league as the GT1000 when it comes to sound quality, and the TONEX One is actually even worse than TONEX pedal. The TONEX Pedal doesn't have the same resolution as the Boss, which is noticeable in the texture of the amps and spaciousness of the effects. And this is all a bit worse in the TONEX One, which probably has worse converters than TONEX Pedal and sounds even a bit more compressed. So the GT1000 is more of a hi-fi unit, while the TONEX pedals are a bit less clear. But what about the sound character? This is where things turn around almost completely, and the TONEX units become a lot more appealing to a lot more players. Turns out the amp sounds on the TONEX pedals are actually more realistic sounding than the ones on the Boss. They sound quite a bit closer to the real thing than Boss, and this will be for many players a more enticing proposition than a unit that has better audio components. But that's not all. In terms of the sound character of effects, the effects offered by Boss are miles ahead of anything on TONEX. TONEX offers good sounding effects, yes, but not the best sounding effects or a comprehensive list of them. Boss, on the other hand, gives you some of the best sounding effects on the market and a large catalog to boot. So to recap, $600 gets you the best sound quality by a lot, the best effects by a lot, but in many people's opinion and my own, less realistic amp sounds. $400 gets you the most realistic amp sounds, good effects, and good sound quality. $200 gets you the most realistic amp sounds with good effects, but with a slight degrading of sound quality. Usability is a tough one. Let me be honest, I don't think any of these units are great in terms of their usability and UI design. The GT1000Core is a hard pedal to navigate, and while you absolutely can do everything from the pedal itself, if you want to make presets for it, I recommend getting the great Boss Studio app and doing the presets from there. For general usage, I've been finding that it's actually pretty nice if you take the time to learn the interface. The first time you interact with the GT1000, you'll feel pretty lost. That's normal, and it does get better with time. As for the TONEX Pedal, it doesn't get better with time. Editing anything on TONEX Pedal is an absolute mess, and even navigating the menus feels super daunting. Again, using the TONEX Editor app will help tremendously and make your experience a lot nicer. In my case, I simply do everything in TONEX Editor and just use the foot switches. As for TONEX One, good news! IK Multimedia actually made a much simpler user interface for this one, and you can learn 90% of the features in about 10 minutes. The only thing I found confusing and felt no inclination to revisit was the browse mode, which allows you to change what presets you have assigned to the foot switches. That felt pretty hard to do, but otherwise, using and navigating TONEX One was easy and overall a great experience. To recap, $600 gets you a pedal that's hard to master and confusing at the start, but gets better with time and ultimately becomes a good experience if you spend time with it. $400 gets you a messy user interface that can be easily remedied with the computer app, and $200 gets you a super easy to use pedal that's well thought out and will just work. In terms of software, there's not much to say about the GT1000Core. It comes with the Boss Tone Studio app, the app's great, does what it says on the tin, the end. As for both the TONEX pedals, it's a very different conversation. We can't forget IK Multimedia is primarily a software company that does products, while Boss is a product company that sometimes does software. And it shows here with a complex distinction between TONEX One and TONEX Pedal. For starters, the TONEX Pedal has 3 apps instead of the 2 included in TONEX One. TONEX One includes the TONEX app and TONEX editor, while TONEX Pedal includes these 2 and adds the TONEX Modeler, which is an app dedicated to capturing your own amps and turning them into tone models. But the more important distinction is how many amp captures each pedal comes with. TONEX Pedal includes what IK Multimedia calls TONEX Max, a suite of 1200 amp captures, while TONEX One comes with TONEX SE, a suite of only 240 captures. This is a massive difference in how many amp captures each product comes with, and one that makes me say that for me, personally, there's no world in which I would get TONEX One instead of TONEX Pedal, because the difference in variety of amps is simply so massive. However, that may not be the case for some of you, depending on the variety you need. To recap, $600 gets you a straight-to-the-point pedal editor app that does its job and nothing else. $400 gets you 3 different apps and 1200 captures, and $200 gets you 2 apps and 240 captures. So which one should you choose? My personal favorite is the GT1000Core because of the amazing sound quality, build quality, effects, and the simplicity of the Boss Tone Studio app. It just works well. It is true that Boss's amp sounds could be better. I wish they could ship amp sounds at the same quality of the XFX units, which to me are the best amp modeling tones I've ever heard. But aside from that, the GT1000Core is a fantastic product. The UI of the pedal could be improved and made simpler to interact with, perhaps taking some inspiration from the HX Stomp, which in my opinion has a way better interface. I would say spend the $600 on the GT1000Core if you want an all-in-one solution that is a super professional product that can do absolutely anything, anytime, anywhere. So long as you accept that there's more realistic amp tones in other units, you'll be fine. The effects, the build, and the sound quality are second to none. Don't get the GT1000Core if you absolutely must have the most realistic amp sounds and the other aspects are not as important. Spend the $400 on TONEX Pedal if you want the most realistic amp sounds on the market for the lowest price, meaning of course there's better sounds out there, think Kemper or XFX, but absolutely not at this price. This unit will give you a bunch of presets and banks to use live, and it could also be an all-in-one, so long as you can make do with a short list of TONEX effects and its not so good user interface. Don't buy the TONEX Pedal if build quality and ease of use are priorities and if you need a long list of great sounding effects. Spend the $200 on the TONEX One if you want a mini pedal that can be used in a bunch of different ways. You can use it as a distortion pedal in its on-off mode, you can use it as an amp replacement at the end of your pedal board, and even use the A/B mode to switch between a clean and a dirty amp, for example. Or you can even use it as an all-in-one, so long as you can make do with only 2 presets. Don't buy the TONEX One if you need more than 2 sounds, if sound quality is a priority, and if you need a product that can do much more than simply replace your amp. And lastly, all these pedals can be incorporated into a pedal board very easily, but there's a few caveats. The GT1000Core is the only one that has an effects loop, which makes it the best to integrate in a complex pedal board that might have time-based effects, while the TONEX One is the smallest one, which means it's very suited to replace your amp with great results while taking up minimal space. As for the TONEX Pedal, it's a middle-of-the-road situation between the other two, where it can replace your amp and even some effects, but has no effects loop. If you need to add more control to these pedals, both the GT1000Core and the TONEX Pedal have MIDI inputs, and while the TONEX One doesn't, there's a new version out, the TONEX One Plus, which has a MIDI jack. But personally, I don't think the TONEX One is a great investment because its price point is super close to the TONEX Pedal and it has only 240 captures like the TONEX One instead of the 1200 that come with the TONEX Pedal. And also, I've done individual reviews on all 3 of these pedals, and I've also done comparisons of the TONEX units in the GT1000 versus the TONEX Pedal. I'll link all those videos in the description in case you need more information about these products. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and let me know in the comments, do you have any favorites yet? Anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.